Hello and welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Asia Pacific. Thank you so much for joining in so far with our first 3 matches of the day. There have been some pretty long ones so far. I believe all of the games going to the 3rd match. It's been right down to the wire so far, and I imagine that is going to show absolutely no signs of slowing with our next match of the day. It is another Mage versus Rogue. One of the matchups that I'm definitely enjoying most of all seeing here in Grandmasters between Patra, as you can see here, and DawN on the Mage. Patra's Mage, though, is Patra's Rogue here is a little bit different to anything else we've seen so far this week.
Yeah, it's actually quite different. Didn't see it before now, actually.
Yeah.
And we see that she's deciding to include the Burgle package, which Flurry did not decide to include, but together with the Burgle package, she also fits in the Underbill Offense and also a green skin in the deck. So
yes, and Thugs, and Hench Clan Thugs. Like, this is a weird deck list.
What does she cut exactly?
Well, she's cutting Togwaggle. She's not running Sea Giant. Oh, she's not running Preps. 1 Shadow Step. 1 Sap.
Yeah, she's cutting a lot of the high end. So it's more of aggressive type of rogue with the Burgle package together with it. So this is very unique rogue, to be honest.
It really is.
I haven't seen anything exactly like this. So it will be interesting to see how it turns out.
I would argue, however, that I think that against DawN's Mage deck, this actually looks like a pretty good build of Rogue to counter that, because it's got the Vendetta, which can be very, very nice against the Giants early on, or a Tempo Luna, a Tempo Apprentice, something like that. But it's also just got a lot of the aggression. Double Deadly Poison, double Waggle Pick means that she can put some really aggressive plays on the table.
Yeah, for sure. And DawN here with the Mage deck, pretty standard Mage deck.
Yeah, I would say so.
And what I would say is the 1 tick slot with the where you potentially have the last Sea Giant, he decides to put in a Harrison instead of that. Kind of hedging towards Rogue or Warrior already in the primary there. So kind of hits Pathra pretty well, especially considering that Pathra runs both Deadly Poison and Green Skin in his deck. In her deck, I mean. Yeah, it's looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, I think the weapon destruction could be pretty important. I also I like the Frostbolt a lot as well. I think that's a pretty key card in Mage at the moment overall, because it hits the mirror pretty well, it hits the Rogue pretty well. It's even not that bad against the Warrior a lot of the time for a bit of extra damage and to freeze their weapons some of the time as well. I think that can be very, very good against the very strong mid game that Patra is rocking with the Hench Clan Burglars and the Hench Clan Thugs as well. Something that we've seen pretty much omitted from the vast majority of deck lists.
Yeah, and also this is going to be a very interesting game to see how the Mage versus Rogue matchup pans out. And currently Mage 2-1 ahead, and Rogue could tie it up potentially in this series. So
it could indeed.
Will be interesting to see.
I mean, it's also an important matchup in terms of the standings for the table, with DawN right up at the top in pretty good contention, especially if he wins this to go through to top 3. And Patra looking to get her first win on the table. And I think if any match is the match to do it, this is her game. I'm feeling the victory this time.
Yeah, the redemption arc for Pathra could already start today.
Exactly.
With her getting a win here and then potentially looking good towards Season 2, which is also an extremely important season. And performing bad in Season 1 doesn't necessarily matter as much as performing bad in Season 2. And she could potentially up her play by then and put herself in contention for playoff.
Right, so now that we're in the game, this hand for DawN looks pretty exciting, because I know against a lot of matchups, you would pretty happily slam Apprentice on 2, Banana Buffoon on 3, buff it up, and then Sandbinder. Is DawN right to be a little bit more cautious here because of the possibility of backstab or, I guess, coin SI?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's very often supposed to be cautious here, and there's just too many punches to the early swordsman. What I think was pretty interesting from DawN this game was that he decided to actually keep the Sandbinder, which is kind of different from the way that the other people have been approaching the matchup early, because Sandbinder is a pretty slow card and is reaching for a Giant, which hasn't been the most successful way we've seen so far with approaching the matchup, but at the same time, it can also get the mana Cyclone, which has been extremely good in the matchup.
Right, I mean, it's really weird to hear you say that, because Sandbinder for a long time was described to me as like the card you're looking for on the play, because it's something you can throw down proactively, which gets you closer to Giant into Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah,
but that was before the big shake-up in how Mage has been played.
Yeah, it's also just about this specific rogue list from Pathra being very, very aggressive. So it's very scary to keep a forward that doesn't do too much to the board.
Yeah.
And Patra here just looking to curve out, I think.
I agree. I think she wants to get this damage through nice and early on, which is why I actually think I quite like the Blink Box here over the Evil Miscreant. Because, I mean, as you've talked about, these cards are like Blink Fox and Hench Clan Burglar and Hench Clan Thug in particular. These kind of 3/3/4 attack minions can be super annoying for Mage to deal with.
Even invest the backstab also, which I really like here actually, just to keep the pressure going and not putting your underbelly fence under ping range, which I think is just very good recognition of her position here. A fast play by DawN there, playing the Sandbinder on 4. I think he was hoping to get the Mana Cyclone, which he ended up getting. It wasn't hoping, it was guaranteed. Yeah, so we got the Mana Cyclone.
I mean, he was still hoping.
he was still hoping. Sometimes maybe something else showed up. Like, what? What happened here?
What is my Frost Elemental doing in this deck?
Yeah. Patra with a decision here.
So many options.
What do you think she will do?
I mean, I think she just wants to keep developing as much tempo as possible, right?
It's actually a really good card in Rogue sometimes.
That is a really good card in
Book
Rogue.
of Spectres. There's a lot of minions in the deck and not that many spells. So that could work out pretty well for her later in the game when she needs more value. And her deck is kind of low on value also because she's running all the aggressive stuff.
So one thing I really want to get your opinion now on Patra's style of play so far is the hesitance to play Evil Miscreant that she has shown. Do you like holding back on it, or do you think she should have been a little bit more proactive in trying to throw that down early on? Because that was a very discreet other line she could have gone for.
In this particular matchup and in this particular hand she was offered, I actually really like it because one of the important parts about this matchup is not necessarily getting all the lackeys, but just keeping that consistent pressure going in. Blink Foxes and SIs are extremely good at doing that, and I feel she has done a pretty good job at doing that so far this game. So I really like how she's played so far.
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good approach to the game.
Now she pulls the trigger on the Miscreant. Get some different lackeys.
Yeah, like the rush on the. It's actually interesting. Does she, if she wanted to rush in with the Goblin Lackey, she could either do it on the Evil Miscreant itself or on the Ethereal Lackey if she wants to keep the board size a bit smaller to play around Sea Giant. But it looks like she only wants to play one of the lackeys with the Book of Spectres that she's considering.
Yeah, now it looks like she's hesitating a bit more with the Book of Spectres. Maybe wants to dagger up. She was just using her time there to consider. She didn't think that there was no relevancy of playing Book of Spectres first because there's no outcome where you get something you can play. So she was just spending her mana and just gaining more time to think about the decision there, which was whether or not to play, for example, Eviscerate, Hero Power, or the Book of Spectres.
That book there, however, was certainly a real page turner. 3 minions being picked up there for Patra. Fantastic. It just means that she can play so aggressively now by just playing her cards. She doesn't even have to play them very efficiently. She can just throw them out onto the board because she has so much refill. So as long as she's playing as aggressively as possible, I think that's just the way she has to go. She has to play super aggressive here before DawN can do his broken mage things.
And DawN are just committing the Giant. Gonna be super weak to Pathra's one-off Sap, which fortunately for her, she has in the hand, so it's going to be a pretty big swing this turn. She could potentially pair that together with the Waggle pick, which sets up a lot of damage. There's other things she can also do with just developing some minions, but I'm not sure if that is the route we want to take here. It might be that we're just happy with our current board state and just wants to get more damage in.
I think
I could also sometimes see her just killing off the Giant. That's not totally off the wall or anything, because what you do if you sap the Giant is that you enable DawN's Giant plus Conjure next turn, and maybe that you're not even, maybe that's something you're very afraid of. And
That's a good point. I wonder how much she can put the read on there being a second giant, because DawN has played a Sandbinder, and the giant he played was not drawn off of Sandbinder. So Patra may be thinking that she has a pretty good read on there being another giant anyway, so she'd be happy to sap it. Like, there's a reasonable chance that there's another giant in hand, considering he could have just drawn it, and he could have drawn it off the Sandbinder.
yeah, I assume that he always plays this giant, because now it's a mystery whether or not the other card is Mana Cyclone or
Right.
yeah, in case that would be a giant.
Yes.
I think he still plays this giant. So yeah, Pathra just taking a more slow line, which versus DawN's specific hand is getting pretty punished, I would say.
Yeah, it is.
Especially versus the Harrison now, getting a lot of value from the deadly poison, the Waggle pick, and Pathra falling quite behind.
However, she does have some really powerful turns that she can make over the next few turns. Obviously, DawN has the...
Well, DawN, talking about powerful turns.
Okay, okay.
DawN has Mountain Giant, Sorcerer Apprentice, Conch Calling, Ray, Banana, Innervate, Cyclone.
That's pretty good.
Can you do all of that at the same turn? I think he can do all
He could
of
also
that.
consider Evocation Giant Double Conjurer's Calling as well, if you wanted to just get the most amount of stats on board.
We got the frog, though.
What do you mean we got the frog? Is that what Patra was looking for?
The frog always clears the giant.
You're upsetting me right now with what you're saying.
Always.
Well, I mean, she's got lucrative contracts, right? So she can go kill a giant,
Well, that
coin.
The frog. Anyways, the frog doesn't see play this turn, unfortunately. We have to save it for another day. DawN are deciding to go for. How does this work exactly? I guess this works.
It's basically the same line, right?
It might be that he wants to. It looks like he's going to go for 2 Conch Callings instead of the Mana Cyclone. I think this is just a slightly worse way to do it.
This was slightly worse.
Because he's left with 0 mana instead of 1 mana.
Yes.
So potentially, if he got 2 mana spells here that were relevant, he can't play them.
Yes. I mean,
So for example, a Shatter, it would not be playable, or Snap Freeze. I mean, that he ended up
Par
getting.
example. Yeah.
He got a bunch of free stuff.
I mean, yeah. Okay. That was insane. That selection of cards that he got there.
But it was a slight mistake there that
Yes.
I would say is you get a bit punished for.
However, the Patra's response as well is super powerful. We could see Frog, Sap, Contract. Oh no, Frog, Contract, Double Coin, Sap.
There, Frog always clears.
Sorry,
That's
I'm
just-
learning.
that's
I'm learning.
That's just what you have to learn. It just always clears.
Even though it's literally impossible for it to clear, it still always clears.
Yes. So Pathra is trying to calculate if the frog clears. When it's cleared, and it always clears. I'm kidding. She's just trying to figure out the best possible player. Sapping the Grave Horror doesn't feel missing at all, though, because that's going to be a 0 mana Grave Horror, as far as I know. And
Yeah, I guess.
I imagine that Pathra is just trying to look for her options now and seeing if there's a good play, and she's just not finding anything. And she could have potentially played the frog here instead of the.
You're obsessed with this frog, dude. You gotta let it go.
But now the frog is unplayable. The
this
frog
frog has gone from god tier to just garbage.
the frog was playable this turn. Now it's unplayable.
Okay, it's only a 6 mana Grave
it's
Horror.
not even 0
That's not nearly so bad. I mean, you could probably make it 0 mana on this.
We
turn.
are getting extremely punished, I would say, for not being able to fit in the Snap Freeze for the last turn.
Yes, that's true.
There would have been not an Edwin on the board, and this would have been 5 mana cost
That's a very
instead
good
of
point.
what we have right now, which might come out to bite him later in the game here.
Because, I mean, yeah, you're definitely right, because he would have got a 2 mana reduction instead of a 1 mana reduction on the Cyclone rather than the Giant. So yeah, he would have just been able to throw it down now.
What to do?
I
What to do?
think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. Mountain Giant plays tricks with your head, with
Yeah.
how you got to play it down.
So, yeah, now he has to... It seems like he's going to expend another turn on doing the Snap Freeze play.
So we can see Frost Nova Snap Freeze brings the Grave Horror down to 4, which would be playable. So Frost Nova Snap Freeze Grave Horror seems like what he's looking at. Yeah.
It is a bit risky to play the... Nah, it's just fine to play Grave Horror. There's no more steps in the deck, so... And there's also only one randomly generated card. So it's very likely that the Grave Horror sticks. Or if it doesn't stick, it's just very hard for Pathra to deal with it.
And there's now very, very limited ways for Patra to clear this off at all. I mean, like,
and now we
it would
have
to be
no spells with the frog. Even though the frog always clears. It just doesn't
even
clear.
in this instance, the frog would still always clear, but somehow it doesn't clear.
It's fascinating, huh? It just doesn't clear. Yeah, it's a hard split for Pathra. I don't think... I think she has to go for a game plan here where she hopes that DawN just doesn't have any more sort of minion type of pressure. So I think that the way she's supposed to approach is that she has to go for the Leroy SI here and then play the long game.
Oh, that feels absolutely dreadful, but I think I agree. Because if she does clear this off, Conjurer's Calling is kind of dead. I mean, it's not dead, but it's
potentially
drastically weakened.
Potentially this could work out because there's a lot of random spells and...
Oh no, wait.
I said potentially.
Good save. Frog has got his work cut out for him now.
We could potentially...
potentially.
Conjurer's Calling the mana cycle and get a frog ourselves. That is an option.
I love how, by being on cast here, you're just letting everyone slowly realize that you're actually a Hearthstone player second and a huge troll primarily. Like, that's your biggest asset in life.
They don't understand.
They don't. I've been with you for 3 days. I can attest, they do not understand.
Okay. Anyways, Pathra here, trying to figure out if there's some way. Slowly probably going to realize that there's no way.
So many options.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Like, it's the face plan now, right? Because if is she dead on... Oh no, wait, she's just dead, yeah.
Well, she's
So
not...
it's
from
it's
her
trade.
perspective.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
her
yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
she's not dead.
So it's trade with the Mana Cyclone. Waggle Pick face. Do you even want the green skin down? Because you might want to break the Waggle Pick on the following turn with Life Drinker.
Yeah, you don't want the green screen. That's actually a pretty good point. It might be that you just want to trade off the SI agent, go face with Waggle Pick, and then...
I mean,
Henchclown
what's the actual out?
Henchclown Frog, Dark Frog maybe? She's going for the green skin.
Is this the infamous green skin into Waggle Pick? As opposed to Waggle Pick into
I think that the Frog and the Dark Frog is slightly better if she wants to go for the green skin first. She's deciding to go for the green skin after.
Praying that she can survive this turn. We can clearly see, however, DawN has the answer, the lethal with the Fireball to close this one out. And it was kind of a weird mid-game there for Patra, where it looked like she was pulling pretty far ahead. Her aggressive game plan was working really, really well up until a point. What was it that went so wrong for her in that mid-game? Was it something DawN did? Was it just the failing of the rogue in general?
Well, what was wrong was that she went for a more slower approach with clearing the Mountain Giant, which was paying respect to the potential of Conjurer's Calling, and she saw herself in a bad positioning against that, which I think was a very reasonable thing to do. But then DawN then had the answer of the Harrison Jones, which was a super big punish to what Pathra did, and kind of from that point on, with DawN getting the Mountain Giant and the Conjurer's Calling together with the Sword Supreme Mana Cyclone, that was just unbelievably insane. And when Cyclone Mage gets to the point where they get to do those kind of turns, it's just super hard for the Rogue deck respond.
It really is. And I think that's actually a pretty good point that you bring up on there of the Harrison, which was really the swing turn in terms of tempo, because destroying the Waggle Pick and bouncing back a minion to the hand, even though it gave an extra card off of the Blink Fox to Patra, it was just way too much tempo.
It gave the frog.
It gave the frog, which didn't get played for the entire game, I remind you.
Yeah. That's true.
That's true. I mean, I don't know, maybe she could have gone for a frog clear, but I'm pretty sure even on the turn you were talking about, it was like nowhere near to an actual clear.
It wasn't. But yeah, it was close.
I guess. And,
yeah.
But close is not good enough in Hearthstone, as Patra does take a pretty unfortunate loss there. However, she can turn things around with this next couple of games, switching over, I would have to imagine, to her secondary deck, which I'm sure we'll get confirmation of soon enough. A slightly different version of the secondary deck that we've seen from most players, with 1 copy of Walk the Plank and 2 copies of Betrayal, as to the opposite, which is usually the way of 2 Walk the Planks, 1 Betrayal, and the 2 Fairy Dragons as well. As, there we go, we got the confirmation there. She is switching over to those Fairy Dragons, which now means taking all the weapon stuff out of her deck, her burst damage is limited quite drastically now. However, her minion pressure that she can stick on the board is kind of insane. This is going to give such consistent high amounts of minion pressure.
Yeah, also, DawN is one of the few mages, if not the only mage, that just doesn't have a rogue sideboard.
Yes.
So I believe he's going to just stick to his primary here.
As we did just get confirmation. DawN is sticking on the primary deck list. He's got an anti-warrior and an anti-mage sideboard. So for Patra, I think if it was looking decent in the first game, it's going to be looking better now, because DawN, as opposed to what we saw from Alutemu a whole lot, which was clearly very much all in on Mana Cyclone, Sorcerer's Apprentice game plans a lot of the time, DawN is showing a little bit more of the classic approach to Conjurer's Calling Mage, which is you play the Giant, you play Sandbinder to draw the Giant, and then you play Conjurer's Calling to get a big board of taunts. There's a reason why that's very classic.
Which is still a very, very solid approach to taking the matchup that wins quite a lot. It's just that recently we've seen that players have been more experimental with it and tried different ways to do it, and seeing that different things actually work. So the deck just has a lot of flexibility in general, and that's different strong ways to win the game.
So for Patra, what are we looking at here? Another Evil Miscreant in the starting hand on the coin. Is there any chance she throws it away because she wants to go Dagger into Thug? Or is Miscreant just too good?
I imagine that she will probably keep the Miscreant still, but it might be that she still wants to go Dagger into Thug and just have the Miscreant as backup for later.
Seems reasonable.
That is something I would imagine, at least. I think that just keeping minions and pressure in general right now, especially when she swapped to her secondary with the Walk the Planks and the Betrayals, is very strong for her, because if you end up mulliganing too much of it, you can end up in a situation where you just only have reactive stuff, and that's not very good for you. The reactive stuff is what shines when you're already ahead, and it actually punishes your opponent quite a lot.
And I think there was, like, I don't know, I felt like there was almost consideration to hold on to the Vendetta, because it can be so good against the Mana Cyclone Mage to kill off an early Giant if you hit the Blink Fox or the Hench Clan Burglar. But I think overall I agree with you that the minion pressure is definitely what you're like trying to head towards. Especially when you find Fairy Dragon to curve perfectly into the Hench Clan Thug. Like, it does mean you forego the Dagger, but I think Fairy Dragon 1-2 is just too insane.
And DawN represented with the same decision that he had the first
Pretty
game,
much.
and still decides to not Apprentice, which would have turned out better this game, but I still agree with the decision, and I just don't think it's worth the risk to play the Apprentice.
Yeah, with both 2 backstabs and 2 SI7 agents, it's just a little bit too scary, I think, to go for the Apprentice on 2. Especially as this Banana Buffoon now is just... It's actually just really, really good. Being able to trade with the Fairy Dragon here, very likely, is pretty nuts. Which is what prompts Patra to go for the Miscreant, trying to hit one of the 2 lackeys in Kobold or Goblin. that would allow her to clear this off. And it does mean that she is rewarded pretty heavily for this line of play. This is a lot of damage that's on board now, and it's difficult for DawN to get rid of it.
Yes, and DawN could choose to approach this in some different ways. He could already potentially go off with the Sorcerer Apprentice, but I think he just wants to take it a bit slower, potentially set up a Giant for next turn.
Yep.
And also leave himself closer to the Conjurer's Callings and the Mana Cyclone.
I mean, it's not... yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's not just the Conjurer's Calling. It's the Mana Cyclone now that would be really insane for him. Next turn, being able to go... What would that even be, like 5 spells in combination with the Sorcerer's Apprentice? Would pull him, I think, pretty far ahead. Or at least a little bit more even. Avenging Wrath seems pretty good here. That's potentially just 6 mana, 8 damage to the dome.
Yes. So Patra does have 1 Walk the Plank in her deck. I think we're just supposed to pull the trigger on the Giant here and see if Patra has a way to answer. I think in the case of Sap, we're not very happy, but we're like fine.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, yeah. But we're still struggling very, very much if there is an answer for this now.
But it's kind of interesting because for Patra, this was the situation where things started turning around for her last game for the worse. Because she felt she had to sink a lot of damage into the Giant in order to play around the Conjurer's Calling.
And she is put in the same situation here. If she decides to play the Sap, DawN could just Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling.
Exactly.
So, in last game he didn't have a Conjurer's Calling. This game he does not have a Conjurer's Calling either. Will she decide to pay respect to the Conjurer's Calling again and kill the Giant?
This is where you have to do quite a lot of maths to figure out the exact breakpoint with 2 Eviscerates in hand.
Some quick maths.
Some quick math, exactly. Which is not easy in these situations because there's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, and it looks like, again, she's
Wow.
staying consistent and she wants to pay respect for the Conjurer's Calling, which I totally get from her perspective. From a cast perspective or a Twitch chat perspective, this can seem like a very bad play, but there's clear reasonings behind this, and it the Sap would have turned out really bad if DawN had Conjurer's Calling in hand.
It gets even more complicated when you consider the Avenging Wrath, because obviously that's more face damage, right? But if there are a bunch of Grave Horrors or Giants on the board, it's way less likely to get a bunch of damage through to face. So it's not even like Patra could have consistently gone for a push everything face and then burn on the following turn plan.
Yeah, I think that was the Grave Horrors she was more worried about. I think if she went, or he went for the Giants and then conjured it into double Giant, I think he would have just fallen behind and Patra would have probably been able to set up Leaf Blower too.
Probably.
But Patra just paying a lot of respect to the potential of the 7-8, but yeah, just a lot of respect to the potential of the 7-8. The 7-8 would have been super annoying for her.
Potentially not all too bad of a secret to get. I mean, just having a secret in play to confuse DawN and potentially make him play a little bit worse in order to play around it is pretty useful.
Again, Vaporize and Barrier are great secrets for these exact situations where you're just representing a lot of stuff when you're ahead. And it makes it very hard for DawN to play. And now DawN with a bunch of cards is probably going to pop off with a Cyclone turn again. We've seen this been very good previously.
Speaking of very good.
That is also very good.
That's very good.
Very good.
Very good.
You can clear off 2 of the minions now. Banana some minions. And then you can, after that,
oh my god,
go for the Cyclone.
This is insane! And he even has the 1 mana left over for Snap Freeze this time. He's thought of everything.
And he gets it? Question mark? He gets more Ray of Frost.
Good enough.
And an Icicle. And an Icicle to clear off the entire board.
Yeah, that's nutty. That's actually nutty.
This was okay turn. So
This turn was insane!
yeah,
Look at what he did!
um,
Patra's entire board gone, and he put like 20 stats on board.
and 20 cards inside.
Mage is insane, dude.
There's a reason Mage was the highest performing deck in Vegas. After all, 57% win rate. I believe it was 6% win rate higher than any other deck.
Yeah.
So good players piloting this deck has clearly shown a lot of success, and we see that these GM players just, in my opinion, just playing very well and recognizing the turns to go in and the turns to hold on. It's just having some insane turns, and they're looking good for DawN, and it's going to be an uphill battle for Patra to get back in the game.
Maybe, however, there's a plot twist in the Book of Patra Part 2 here in the Book of Spectres that she's picked up again. I don't know, maybe that can get a little bit of extra minion presence, because it's not like she's dying, right? Like, she's lost board control absolutely for the next few turns, especially as she has very, very few minions to fight back. But it's not like she was dying. Antonidas might turn that around quite quickly, but she wasn't under too much pressure.
Yeah, and also DawN doesn't have any of the conch calling, so you can't do too much pressure immediately here. It is a bit hard for him to
I wonder.
keep on building the pressure. You
Yeah.
can go to Anton, but the Anton is vulnerable to potentially the sap from Pathra, so
I guess.
I don't know. It's a very tricky situation for DawN here. He has to figure out how to maximize his tempo here and just keep going ahead. It might be that it might be that DawN is just feeling that playing the Anton here is just the best opportunity he has to do that. So
I mean, the upside is so huge, right? Because the downside is Patra can maybe start to swing the board back in her favor a little bit. The upside is you win the game if it's not removed. Sap here obviously killing the Antonidas due to the full hand from DawN.
gun.
Bye.
Yeah. Killing the Antonidas and also overdrawing a card. So both.
Which could be bad. Like, if Conjurer's Calling is overdrawn here or a Giant, DawN actually has not all that much pressure that he can put forward, which is kind of concerning. Like, he has the Book of Spectres to draw through to those cards, but I would say it's not over yet.
Yeah, this is also why I question the Anton turn more, right? Because he just has a very clunky hand to deal with. Maybe he was supposed to try to get some stuff out of this hand and set up for Anton turns potentially later when he can generate more pirates and set up lethals. I'm not sure. Gets a bit punished here by the sap, but yeah, he had to play into sap at one point, most likely.
It's far from DawN's biggest concern, as it looks like he's entered an AHA music video with his webcam there. But yes, as you pogchamped to me with your verbal expression, or your facial expression, sorry, the Conjurer's Calling is pretty bad to overdraw.
The Conjurer's Calling is bad?
To overdraw.
To overdraw. Keyword.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
overdraw.
yeah. Well, there you go. You've got that clip, right? You can make a clip of Derek Brown saying Conjurer's Calling is bad.
Don't nerf. Anyways, yeah, Conjurer's Calling getting overdrawn, so he's directly getting punished because that Conjurer's Calling would have been insane with his hand.
Yes, it would have been absurd.
He would have been able to totally.
He could have made 4 wisps.
Just tempos the Kaga.
And it is insta-dealt with.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Patra does here. She's Vendetta first.
Why didn't she book the Spectres first? She still gets the 0 mana Vendetta, right?
Yeah, it's just a slight order mistake by Patra there. There's no real good reason to not book of Spectres first.
We've seen that already today. You draw first.
We've seen that already today, yeah. Just some small slip-ups when you're playing a bunch of complicated matches, and sometimes it just happens. It's not very relevant, it's just a small detail that could potentially matter if she drew, for example, backstab. That would have been more efficient to use on the 12th minion. And now we have this situation again where the Vaporess is just representing all the secrets. And DawN doesn't have a way to proc the Vaporess or test for it. So he's most likely going to end up testing for all the secrets before the Vaporess, which makes the Vaporess incredibly powerful there.
So what is DawN looking to do most of all here? Because, well, okay, actually, that's not the question, right? The question is, obviously, he wants to put on pressure to try and close out the game. How does he best accomplish that is the question. Is he just trying to tempo out his cards that he has in hand in order to get a little bit of board presence, or should he be trying to draw more cards to get through to the power cards?
Time runs out on me.
Normally, I would go for in his previous hand. It seemed like his hand was only missing the contra calling, right?
Yeah.
But then he overdrew the contra calling, so that was
Pretty bad.
Yeah. And now it's just getting a bit. It's getting
very scary.
Yeah. DawN might have just ended up going into too much of a slow play situation here, where Patra with the Avenging Ref and Waggle-Pick Leroy is just setting up a lethal.
So it's not over for DawN now because the Vape hits, Harrison comes down, he goes for the Conjurer's Calling, and if he hits taunts, DawN is alive. If he doesn't,
he is
dead.
alive. Yes. Is there anything else he can hit? No.
Does he have a Frostbolt left in his deck? Because he could... Oh no, wait, it's not the weapon. Yeah.
Is there anything that can like generate health?
Well, Rotten Applebound would be the absolute dream.
Didn't get anything though.
Yep, that is absolutely nothing.
And Patra manages to take the win here.
She got the win. Very important.
We're just pretty surprising to be honest after the situation DawN wasn't there. Maybe
was the the Tony turn, the Antonidas turn?
Yeah, the Tony turn was
wrong?
the big question mark there, I feel. Yeah, I don't think he had any very clean plays that turn, but the Tony definitely didn't feel amazing, and it got punished by both the Sap and the Walker Plank there from Pathra, and also potentially overdrew some cards, which was a bit scary. I'm not sure if the Tony turn was correct, but it was just a close game, and Pathra managed to take it.
There was, I don't know, the Tony turn as it worked out was obviously incredibly weak, right? Because he generated one Fireball, he overdrew the Conjurer's Calling, and it was sapped straight away. But if we were just in an alternate universe where Patra didn't have the sap, or it wasn't exactly Conjurer's Calling that was overdrawn, that could have just won DawN the game on the spot, right? If the Tony had stuck around, generated extra Fireballs. So I think I actually still like the Antonidas play because the potential upside was so high to just win the game on the spot. But like you said, he had other options with just Tempo Harrison, for example, or Banana Buffoon, draw extra cards with the Book of Spectres as well.
Yeah, we're just trying to play a lot of the cards and just get more value of the Anton or the Book of Spectres in the upcoming turns, and just playing more for your deck and not your exact hand right there, because he was clearly going for a game plan there of just hoping Tony sticks and then consistently freeze the board and Fireball face, because that would have won, but Patra did have the punish with the sap in that specific scenario, and it really punished him, but there's definitely a lot of reason behind what it did, and unfortunately got punished in that scenario.
I'm surprised. I've got to be honest, Mage in that game was looking more broken than my arm on some of those turns with the Mana Cyclone and the Sorcerer's Apprentice as well. But I'm happy for Patra taking that win. She's still in with a possibility of taking her first victory of Grandmasters, starting to turn around her losses that really were hampering her at the start of Grandmasters. But like you said, it's not the end of the world for her. Season 2 with the relegation is where things get really, really scary. But at this point, it's just for pride. Trying to get that win on the table, proving that she does deserve this spot here in Grandmasters.
Yeah, it also looks like we're going to Game 3 every game today. Which is looking great for my match later today. Great.
That is, yeah, something we should mention. Hunter Ace is not only casting this week, as soon as we're done, he's playing the first match of Europe.
Yeah.
And you're playing a Warrior Mirror.
Not looking forward to that. I was very tired after yesterday of casting, so it's gonna be an interesting experience to play a game right after that, and especially the Warrior Mirror. Really looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll be able to play well there. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see.
Let me tell you, I personally am very much looking forward to that. I'm going to be laughing the entire time, I guarantee you. But before we get through to Europe and Hunter Ace's match, we first have to finish up with Asia Pacific. This match, and then one more with Blitzchung versus Shaxi after this. The final game for all the glory, the entire win here. Could go either way. DawN hoping to get himself up into a very good spot for playoffs, finishing in top 3, and Patra just trying to get that first win on the table to turn things around. Pretty reasonable start for both players here, with DawN being on the coin this time is obviously much, much nicer for him. And, I mean, a reasonable hand to be on the coin. If he can pick himself up a Mountain Giant, this actually looks like a pretty premier Mountain Giant hand.
Was already a decision by DawN their turn 1 by not playing the magic trick.
Yeah.
Which is
a little surprising.
a little surprising, especially in his current hand set where he didn't have any of the Cyclone, Evocation, Sorcerer Apprentice stuff. So maybe it would have been better for him to potentially get the information, and if you had a mirror image or whatever, it would have been like a great utilization for one of the upcoming turns. But there's also a lot of value just holding it back and waiting for a Sorcerer Apprentice, or just waiting for having more information on the game state.
As Patra is here, yet again, left at the mercy of Banana Buffoon. The Fairy Dragon trading with the Banana Buffoon is just miserable every time we see it, and I think it's happened like 2 games in a row now for DawN. And being able to generate the bananas as well to go in combination with this Sorcerer's Apprentice means DawN is just getting such a favorable exchange here. It's insane.
Wait, I don't think this is actually trading.
Well, I mean, she's not going to trade, right? But it's going to die to the Buffoon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I should have clarified. Dying rather than
Maybe
trading.
she trades. There is some consideration in trading. But
well, because of double banana, right, and then value trade.
Well, I don't think she should respect that because I don't think that is a particularly good play from DawN.
Fair enough.
So I think correctly she decided to not do that.
So are we going to see an AI on this turn for DawN? I think it can probably hold off on something to do a little bit more powerful with the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Or the Banana Buffoon. I guess, I mean, the 2-2 that Banana Buffoon puts on the board is arguably very, very relevant. But the AI, in terms of drawing cards, was obviously, I think, a lot better than Bananas here. But maybe not better enough to warrant not playing a 2-2.
Yeah, he's just setting up for the Sorcerer Apprentice for later being
Pretty nutty.
very, very good. If you can manage to pick up a Cyclone here,
How does
very good.
0 mana Blessing of Kings sound?
He even has the Sandbinder, so that is Cyclone 50% of the time.
And the other 50% of the time, it's a 3 mana 8/8, which seems pretty good.
Yeah.
And, I mean, well, on the other side of the board, Patra's still put in a pretty difficult situation where
Choose soon.
consistently throughout this match here, she has been put in a situation of, do I trade or do I go face? Does she protect her board, play around the possibilities of Conjurer's Calling, bananas and things like that? Or does she just go for the ultimate burn damage plan? And she has consistently been hedging on the side of trading, just playing around the cards that DawN could throw down, specifically with the Mountain Giant to play around Conjurer's Calling. But even just here, going with the trade instead of face is a lot of missed damage, but you can see the reasoning why. You don't want to be hit with banana plus trade.
Yeah, I like the trade. I think that with her knowing that there's 4 bananas in DawN's hand, I think it's definitely worth it to go for the trade. And DawN picks up the Cyclone. He looks a bit disappointed about the Cyclone. I'm not sure if it's actually the weaker pickup, but
I think it's pretty absurd. It's like 2 mana, draw 7 cards.
it's not draw 7 cards.
Generate 7
Generate is in general a bit worse than drawing cards.
Okay, fine. You're right. It's
Also,
terrible.
it's random.
It's terrible. I'd never play that card.
Imagine playing that card down. Imagine. Pathra still just piling under pressure. Going for a Shadow Step there and hits the Shadow Step to make the Edwin even bigger.
Yeah.
That's definitely the outcome she wanted.
That's
it's actually,
such a big difference.
Yeah, it's actually such a big difference because going with the Waggle Bucket there in general was super risky because if she hits the wrong one, that's big mill also. That is the card. Dawn
That's
would love
definitely
to
what
have.
Dawn wanted to see. I mean, he still has actually, I think, a very good chance of generating one. That is a tough pick, though. Does he go for the... Like, if he goes for Evocation and plays the Arcane Intellect on the same turn, he's running into the possibility of having too many cards.
Well, he can play around that potentially. That is fine. He decides that the Frostbolt is higher value though, which I'm not.
Evocation was pretty nuts then.
Evocation was really good. They were both really good.
His Apprentice, though, is
I don't know. What was the better
so
one.
crazily juiced now.
And now we have a Blizzard into Flame Strike.
It seems pretty good. Or even just Flame Strike next turn if this Apprentice lives. And it is a 7/6, so it's relatively difficult to kill.
It is a 7/6.
These are things that are true.
I feel like every single game I'm seeing, this Sorcerer is popping off with the Mana Cyclone. It's always insane.
Yes. I know you're a big advocate of Sorcerer's Apprentice. Of cheating out 8 mana on a turn for 2 mana.
Yeah, and getting all of the spells back again. It's pretty strong. Yeah, for Pathra here, so she's looking to use the Betrayal, I think, together with the Eviscerate to deal with the Sorcerer Apprentice, because knowing that DawN has so many random spells in his hand, it's super scary for her to just leave him with a Sorcerer Apprentice on board. So dealing with that seems like a very reasonable decision.
I agree. I think
besides that, oh, she's actually doing the Valley trade.
This felt like the time to go face, right?
She is protecting her Edwin, in theory.
Against trade ping, like,
Yes.
does DawN ever have the mana to go ping there? Like, surely he always wants to go for something more impressive.
It might, yeah, exactly. It might matter more to just get the free damage in there.
Yes,
and
I think I agree.
we have SI and Eviscerate in our hand, and potentially with a Leroy or something, we could just get the reach.
Whoa. That is a spicy top deck, though. That Myra's changes things around drastically.
That was,
Pretty good.
if not the best draw, it was a very necessary draw from one of the upcoming turns.
Did she just slam it this turn?
So many options.
Yes.
I think I agree. Even just being able to go Eviscerate in combination with that is pretty nuts.
Yeah, she could even set up Lethal sometimes if she hits Leroy plus Shadow Step.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Like, there's obviously some temptation to get more value out of it, but I think, like you said, actually, just like setting up for going into 8 mana with a lot of cards is pretty important, because a lot of the burst breakpoints for Rogue hit at 8 mana. Like, for example, Leroy Shadow Step.
There are considerations to just hold on to it too, but it's slow playing it quite a lot to hold on to it, I think. I mean, I would probably play it, but I can see holding on to it too, and it looks like that is what
time now.
she's leaning towards here. Yeah, and she's just playing herself. This goes a bit into DawN's play this turn, which is
I love this, though, at the end, though, from Patra. I think overriding her weapon, then swinging, is like, it's very unlikely that both charges matter, and it's better against Harrison Jones. Oh, no, wait, it's worse against Harrison Jones.
Yeah, then I asked the
It
question,
would overdraw.
was it better versus Harrison Jones?
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Maybe I don't like that, actually. It was close. Like, the idea was pretty smart, but DawN would have just overdrawn cards, so yeah.
I think it was worse versus Harrison Jones,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
I
idea
agree.
was smart. Yeah, I agree.
The ability to
There's
kill
a lot
off-
of value.
It's a lot of value, but
That was
it's no way.
insanely high value
Myra's.
but
There's no way to kill off the
yeah, the Ciliax.
Ziliax here.
I think this is a very like, it's incredibly high value, but it's not really the outcome that Patra wanted to see.
No.
Patra wanted the high burn hand there. She gets the Leroy, but besides that, she doesn't really get anything that I think she wants. The miscreants are very, very cool, but she can't really play them this turn because she wants the max value of it, but I don't know. It's hard. She also wants to deal with the Celiacs. She can't do it.
She just cannot, unless she saps it, which sounds absolutely horrendous. She's just got to deal with it for a turn.
Underbelly Angler?
How much is this worth to you?
It might be that I even don't want to play the Underbelly Angler because it's one of the cheaper cards, right?
Yes.
So it could.
The Underbelly Fence.
Yeah,
It's basically the same thing. They're both two mana 2/3s here.
I'm just confused. Yeah, it's an Underbelly Fence. That's what's the card's called. So DawN here has to figure out how to lock out the game, basically.
Can he do that though? Because
I'm pretty sure he can do it. He has a lot of different.
he doesn't have a lot of information though, right? Because Patra burned a lot of cards.
He has the Vaporize. So the Vaporize will lock out the potential of Leroy just randomly charging your face.
That's a good point.
So that is a very, very important thing that DawN has going from here. Also, I don't think Pathra, with already spent her Edwin, can actually make her board bigger than 4 health. So the Flame Strike will always clear.
Yeah, that would be nuts actually.
And together with that, DawN also has the Anton together with the Frost Nova for the turn 10. And I think with all of those things in mind, DawN should be able to guaranteed win this game.
DawN is, however, not going for the Vaporize here.
This is something I think I don't like.
Would you like to have seen the Vaporize come down?
Yes.
I mean, Patra's only at 9 mana, so even Leroy Step, Leroy Abyss. Oh no, she's used both Eviscerates anyway, right, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there was no danger of DawN dying at all actually on this turn. I don't think I actually mind this.
Well, the thing is that I just think it's a bit less relevant. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
Because this is like the higher tempo play kind of in the immediate, right?
It just depends versus Pathra's hand, like the type of hand Pathra has. But sometimes developing the Vaporize this turn makes you way more flexible the upcoming turns.
Good point. Good point.
But there's definitely considerations for both, and it's just a bit dependent. And I can definitely see where DawN is coming from.
However, like you said, whew, this Flame Strike is pretty nuts now for DawN. Being able to completely clear off the board. And he's getting pretty close to lethal of his own with that Pyroblast in hand.
And this is the type of situation where I would like the safety of having Vaporize online, because in the upcoming turn, I would see. I think it's very likely that DawN will go for Anton play.
But like now he has the safety of Ethereal Lackey into Mystery Spell, right? That's just dealt with. Like they both protect you against different things.
Yeah. I think it's pretty close.
I think it's really close, yeah.
And Pathra here starting to be desperate because she has a clock on her and she doesn't finish the game pretty soon now.
Many options.
She will eventually die to fatigue. Also, there's the Pyroblast just sitting in the hand. Not even the Anton, right? Just the Pyroblast. Which is also a concentration I didn't even talk about.
Ooh!
A classic.
The Pyroblast off of the Hench Clan Burglar. And she's starting to narrow down the secrets. She knows it's...
No, we can't. We can't.
I mean, she will start to realize that this is Counterspell, right? She knows it's not Barrier because she attacked face with the dagger, I think.
Oh, dude. Pyroblast always wins these. Oh, disaster.
But does it, though? Like, because there's still the Counterspell in play, right?
Well,
She's got triple Kobold, though, which is an absurd amount of damage.
Wait. Oh, but now we can't clear the Hench Clan.
She's setting up for the Pyroblast, though. She thought it was Counterspell, so she's playing this to play the Pyroblast next turn.
Well, is the Pyroblast always lethal, though?
She has to kind of hope it is, right? She's running out of stuff to do.
So
Like, Leroy triple Kobold is even more damage, though.
But now the Vaporize comes in. I mean, this is just random spells.
It gets very, very complicated.
Just trying to
And it does now mean that with the 3 damage that Patra's taking, or with the weapon swing, or the minion swing as well, it doesn't make any difference. Patra has to win on this turn.
These turns are just so complicated in general because there's just so many implications. And like DawN's hand is almost entirely random.
Yeah.
It's just super hard. And yeah, Patra just deciding to go for one line, which set up the Pyroblast lethal, but DawN just having the answer for that with the Frost Nova into his own counter lethal.
Yep. And so now Patra is looking at Life Drinker. Leroy Kobold is not lethal. Triple Kobold Leroy, there's not board space, and that's not even lethal anyway.
I think she has to go for Henge Clownburglar out, right?
But she doesn't know the Pyroblast is there, right? She just has to pray that there's that this sticks.
Oh yeah, correct. She just doesn't know the Pyroblast there. Yeah, so she would just take it slower.
I think this is definitely the right way for her to go about it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Too soon.
However, we can see
Both players randomly generated Pyroblast. What is happening?
yeah, there's not really much you can do about this for either player. Like,
neither player is supposed to play around either player's Pyroblast.
Yeah.
It just gets a bit dumb, but yeah, DawN takes the serious, and I think that they both played to their own Pyroblast win condition, and DawN was just a bit more ahead, and I think that DawN had more flexibility towards the end there, so he could have also went for the Anton win condition. I don't think he actually needed the Pyroblast.
Yes.
I think he could have gone for another win condition where Pathra was kind of forced into this game plan of going for the Pyro, which didn't work out for him.
DawN, however, did not look too happy there when we saw his webcam right at the end, shaking his head right at the end. I'm sure in that situation where there's a million discovered or random spells, you can always find like 1,000 ways that you could have messed up. Like they could have got this, they could have got that maybe you could have played around better. But I think overall his game plan was pretty right. Like you know, he wanted to stop the damage, set up for a Pyroblast lethal as quickly as possible. But I think what was much more interesting to me was on Patra's side with how she with how she was switching between wanting to push for lethal, but also wanting to remove the giants, right? Like, I could understand the reasoning for pretty much all of her plays with wanting to kill off the giant to play around Conjurer's Calling, but I wonder if maybe she should have just thrown caution to the wind there and gone more aggressive and just say, if they don't have it, I win.
Yeah, there's also to be noted in that situation, she didn't immediately lose the Conjurer's Calling. It would have to be Conjurer's Calling and get a town, because I think in a situation where he gets Conjure Calling and doesn't get a town, I think Patra just has the lethal push. So it's definitely a decision and a consideration to think about now in looking back at it, but it's definitely something that's totally reasonable from Patra's perspective to do, and seeing it get punished in both games is kind of unfortunate for her.
It definitely is, and again, commiserations to Patra. Maybe next game, which she's still playing once this week, she can get that win on the table. But for DawN, going up to 7-2, very, very good chance of getting through to that top 3 playoff score now, as he will be playing one more game tomorrow on our bumper 6-match Sunday. But we have one more game left to play today. It is going to be Blitzchung up against Shaxi. Shaxi right at the top of Division B, potentially getting up to a very, very respectable scoreline of 8-1 after this game. Very, very exciting one. Make sure you stick around.